Brett teaches Raspberry Pi.
Brett teaches Raspberry Pi.
Brett.
Tech is cool. T-minus 5 seconds.
Brett teaches Raspberry Pi.
Okay, now that we got our operating system on our micro SD card, the next step is actually place it into the Raspberry Pi and boot it up. Should we get that set up?
Awesome. So the first step, you're just going to want to put this micro SD card right here in the port and just make sure that's face up. Slips right in.
Excellent.
And then you can see this HDMI is a little bit smaller than normal, but your kit's going to come with a mini HDMI, and that's just going to fit right in there as well.
And then while she's plugging that in, the back side, we're going to plug into the back of this monitor so that it's ready to go. So I'm just going to plug that in back here. Okay.
Perfect. And then next thing, you want to connect it to a power source and try to use the outside one, even though it will fit into either port. That's just where the power actually comes from.
And then once again, I'm just going to plug the power back here in the back. If you notice, your kit power source comes with a little switch here. You're going to use the switch to turn it on and off whenever you need to. So that's all set up. The next part's this USB piece over here. So since our Raspberry Pi doesn't have normal USB ports, we got this little extender kit here that's going to allow us to plug in multiple devices, mainly our mouse and keyboard here, so that we can actually control the Pi itself. We need input, right? We can't just stare at it and assume it knows what we're doing. So we're going to plug our keyboard and mouse in. Luckily, we've got a wireless mouse and keyboard, right? Super easy. It's got one USB thing here that we're going to go ahead and just plug right into this kit. It never goes in right the first time, right? There we go.
Perfect.
We got it in. So that's going to hook up our mouse and keyboard. The next step is to turn this on and boot it up and see how it works.
All right.
Okay, so we've now supplied power to our Raspberry Pi. You're going to see a light blinking on it that says it's booting up. And you're going to see here in a minute, the screen's going to turn on. You're going to see it boot up into the Raspberry Pi operating system that's built for this device and is going to give us all the stuff we need in order to do our programming coming up. Pretty exciting?
I'm excited. Let's do some programming.
Okay, let's see how this boots up and we'll go from there. Fast forward.
3 hours later.
Yeah. Okay, as you can see, it's now booted up into our Raspberry Pi operating system. You can see you're gonna get this really cool picture here. In the top left corner is kind of similar to Windows if you're used to it, or Mac, I guess. In the top left corner here, we have an icon that we're gonna go ahead and be able to click to navigate the system. We're gonna come up here in the corner, let's get my mouse up there and click on it. You can see the different options here. We're gonna dive into this here in a second, and we're gonna start messing around in the operating system. And so, what do you say? Should we go start doing that?
To the operating table.
Let's go. All right, so now we booted up into Raspberry Pi. First time we boot it up, we're gonna get this little pop-up window that's gonna walk us through the setting up of the initial settings, such as the time zone and the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and go through this together so that we can get it all set up properly. So the first thing we're gonna do after we read that is we're gonna hit next, go to the next screen. On the screen, we need to pick our country, which is United States for us. Language is already set to American English for you. Time zone, we're gonna set it to Denver because we're right here in the Salt Lake City area. So we're gonna pick Denver. Okay, and then down here we have a use English language and a use US keyboard. I'm gonna check both of those since that's what we're doing. We're gonna go ahead and hit next from that screen. Okay, it's gonna take a second to kind of set up your location, get your time zone set and your the current time of the Raspberry Pi. So we're gonna let that run for a second. Okay, this next section is going to ask you to change the password. I highly recommend you do this. You can see up here at the top, the default username is Pi. The default password is set there, Raspberry. If you want to keep it, that's what it is. I highly suggest you change it so you don't get hacked later if you get it attached to the internet. People are pretty tricky, so I'm going to go ahead and change it here. Make sure you change it to something you remember going forward. So we're going to type a password in here and go ahead and hit next. Okay, so if your taskbar at the top doesn't fit on the screen or you can't see it, this is the screen that'll fix it. So check the box there and then hit next. It should adjust it for you to make sure it fits on your screen. Mine's fine, so I'm just gonna hit next. The next thing, this is where you would set up your Wi-Fi. You would find obviously your SSID. Ours is already set up here, so I'm not gonna do it, but make sure you go through and set it up. We're gonna go ahead and click skip to the next section. Okay, so next thing is to update the software. You want to make sure everything's to the latest version. Go ahead and click next and let it update everything. This is going to take a bit, so we're going to kind of fast forward time so you don't have to sit and watch all of this. Okay, our system is up to date. You get this setup complete screen. Tells us everything is ready to go, everything's updated, Wi-Fi set up, we're ready to do it. So let's look at our menu system up here in the top left corner. It's a little Raspberry. This thing will drop down and show you everything that's accessible to you, such as applications, the web browser here, which is this little blue world icon. The next icon to the right of that is the file manager. It's similar to the Windows Explorer in Windows to look at your files on the system and do stuff with them. The little icon to the right of that one is a terminal window. We're going to use that in a later video to set some things up, but at this point we're done.